Ladies and gentlemen, would you kindly rise and help me welcome Nicolas Cage.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah. We see you. Woo. Your shades are too cool. Woo.
On behalf of the artists and the innovators that Cinequest serves, we're so honored to present you with our Maverick Spirit Award. Your work epitomizes the spirit of the great entrepreneurs and innovators here and the great artists of film, and we deeply appreciate your time here this evening. Welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Thank you for having me. You want me over there?
You're welcome.
All right, this party's already started.
Yeah, feels good.
So, welcome, thank you, congratulations. It's great to have you here in San Jose.
I'm very, very thankful that I was invited because I'm here with true film enthusiasts.
It's true. Last night, William H. Macy was here last night with his movie, Crystal, and he said this is a very smart audience, so we're going to have some time for questions from the audience later, so get ready.
I love it.
Imagine they're going to be smart questions.
Outstanding. Let's get into it.
Okay, we've got you've got this wonderful
White Sun.
award here.
This reminds me a little of Captain Marvel.
Oh, yeah. We'll get into comic books. There's a nice little point here.
Oh, it's very nice. It's quite beautiful.
And it's the Maverick Spirit Award.
Yeah.
So, Cinequest, we consider you to be a maverick. Do you see yourself as a maverick?
Well, I mean, if by maverick you mean someone who encourages the independent spirit in others and also in myself, then I would say yes. I have always tried to encourage my co-stars to be independently minded. One of my heroes is Prince.
Oh.
And Prince was always funky, and he dressed however he wanted, and I sometimes think, well, what would Prince do, And so that's always been, he's been my maverick. So.
I think we could all do a little with what would Prince do?
I think so.
Our minds.
It's a good philosophy to have. It actually works.
In your career, I mean, we watched all these films up here. You heard a lot of cheers. You seem to do what people won't expect you to do. Has that been a career choice of yours?
Well, I see myself as a student of film performance. I'm always trying to learn something. And so I have to keep it eclectic, and I have to challenge myself. I have to take risks. This way I stay interested. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it does work. But I know that if I can stay surprised and excited, then hopefully the audience will also have that same feeling. Film performance to me is music. Film performance, I think music is, every art aspires to be music. I like to hear the melodies and the dialogue, and I hear it in my head, and I like words. A little bit like Jagger, he likes to, bleeding volcano, likes to extend the word, and I do that with the dialogue. I like to play with words and I hear the music and the dialogue.
How do you know when you're seeing a script for the first time, when do you hear that music? Or is it through the dialogue?
Yes. I mean, I have to read the script. I did a picture called Honeymoon in Vegas, and I knew right away, thank you, with that movie, with the great Sarah Jessica Parker, no less, Andrew Bergman was directing, and I could tell right away when I read the script, I could hear the words, how I wanted to play with them, but Andrew had this great way of writing where he would italicize things, and I knew, like, in the airport scene when I have the meltdown, that was all italicized, and I could hear it in my head, and that happens time and time again. When I read the script to Raising Arizona, I knew right away, I had it in my body. I felt it inside, that, and I wasn't even entirely sure why, but that I could play H.I. It just sang to me somehow. The dialogue sang to me.
And if the script doesn't sing to you, Then you say, we'll move on to the next
Well,
one.
because I don't want to bore anybody. The worst thing an actor can do, in my opinion, is to bore the audience.
Has he
I don't
ever
care
bored
if
any
you-
of you?
Well, I don't care if you fall on your face. Just don't bore them. It's got to be entertaining on some level. That's how I feel about it.
Well, I think you've been entertaining, but when you get a script,
3 cheers.
the characters you played are, well, they're kind of out there sometimes. They've all got this sort of Nicolas Cage quality, I think people would say. How much of that is on the page that attracts you to the material to begin with, and how much do you get to influence that?
It depends. It changes with each genre and with each character. For example, I recently did a movie called Mom and Dad.
Yes.
About some sort of virus or something, and parents decide to be homicidal toward their children. It's never really explained. Isn't it weird that we're laughing about that? But that's why I made the movie. It was so taboo. I said, this is irreverent, this is taboo, I gotta do this. Because it's funny, I know it's funny somewhere.
Taboo.
But anyway, I was doing the scene where I had to smash the pool table with a sledgehammer. And I had to have genuine anger. And so I was thinking, what can I do? What can I add to this so that I can really not have to act and really be frustrated and just beat the crap out of that pool table? And I said, what would work for the movie? And then I went back in time, back through my memory bank. I look at my memories, my dreams, what have you, to get the character to be organic. And lo and behold, I went all the way back to kindergarten. And they were making me, the teachers of the Bureau of Education had designed the Hokey Pokey song to sing, where you put your right foot in, you take your right foot out, and you do the hokey pokey, you turn yourself around. And I knew that they had designed that song to separate the discoordinated children from the coordinated children. And I wasn't discoordinated, but I had discoordinated friends, and I took great umbrage with that, and I got really pissed off.
Yeah.
So I put that in the scene. It wasn't in the script, but it worked. And
there went that pool table.
And that demolished the pool table.
Screw the hokey
Then if
pokey.
you look at a picture like Joe, which is a much more cinema verite dramatic style, the other, I couldn't pull up the hokey pokey for a bar brawl scene because that would not have been applicable to the genre. And this is sad, and it is quite tragic. I sometimes look at current events. That's also part of being independent. You're a newspaper man.
Yeah.
If you want to be independent, if you want to be a maverick, you got to read the paper. You have to form your own opinion.
I believe that. Yeah.
Exactly right. But I was in this scene where I had to go into a bar brawl because this bully was picking on my best friend, and I couldn't get there. I couldn't get the anger. And this is sad. There was a story in the paper about a little toddler, 2 or 3. He fell into a pit of wild African dogs in a zoo, and no one got him out, and he was mauled to death. And even thinking about now, I get very emotional, and I got so angry about that I put it in the dialogue. I start drinking and bad tripping about that and talking about the child, and that got the energy there where I could do the bar brawl in a way that, organically, I felt I meant it. So.
Now that's such an internal process of the way you get in touch with those characters and those scenes. You've done some external things too, to sort of get into a character. I read, Birdie, one of your early films. I'm not going to, the movie's over 30 years old. If you haven't seen it yet, you should rent it, but I'm not spoiling anything. His character ends up a little damaged at the end, and to get into that, you lost some weight, and you had 2 of your front teeth pulled.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so these are the links you'll go to sort of get into a character, or at least that you would have then.
With one caveat, and I'm going to be totally upfront about it. I was trying to design a kind of, if you will, a mythology around myself. De Niro was gaining the weight for Raging Bull, and so I wanted to be that badass method actor. And I put 2 teeth that were apart, but the reality is I had a problem with baby teeth way into my adulthood. And I had to pull the 2 baby teeth so the adult teeth could grow in. So that's the reality. It was actually a healthy choice.
So there we are.
Preach it.
That was fake news
Good
to
health
begin with,
decision.
apparently. Fake news before we had it. Now, you mentioned growing up, we were talking earlier about a movie you saw, Citizen Kane, and you saw that with your dad, August Coppola. And up here in the Bay Area, he was pretty well known. It was at San Francisco State.
Thank you.
And I think I want to ask, how much of a creative influence was he on your life? And on your brothers? I mean,
How high is infinity? I mean, he was enormously influential in
Be honest.
all my brothers' lives and my life, and to grow up with a professor is quite something, especially a professor of literature. He pointed me in all the right directions to read the right books. He had me doing the missing chapter. He said, I want you to be a foreign correspondent, Nicolas. I want you to read Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse and Aldous Huxley, and I want you to go into the book and write the missing chapter. So I would have to do that. I would say, well, this is your foreign correspondent. I'm in Siddhartha, and I just met Siddhartha, and I would write these stories. And that did so much for my ability to stimulate my imagination. You mentioned Citizen Kane. You're a newspaper man. That was the movie that made me want to be a newspaper man. We were talking backstage. That was my first thing I studied in high school was journalism, and I loved it. I absolutely did. But he took me to see that movie with my brothers when I think I was 8 or 9. And even then, I knew the genius of Wells, the greatness of the performance, the heartbreaking aspect of the performance. And the movie has never been paralleled or challenged in any way. Even now, it's so fresh. I saw it a week ago, watched it at night, had to watch it again in the morning. It's just the best movie ever made.
It was so ahead of its time. I mean, just the way Wells directed that film, with the innovative camera
Special
work
effects were top
and
notch.
the scripting.
Yeah.
And have you carried that into your career? I mean, who else have been your influence?
You see, there's so many different ones. People often ask me, like, what are your 5 favorite movies? I just said, guys, I can't do it in 5.
It's like all of them.
I cannot. I mean, there's different movies for different lifetimes. I mean, I've lived several lifetimes already in this existence of mine. When I was a child, my favorite movie was War of the Gargantuas by Inishiro Honda. You know, great movie, by the way. You know, yeah. Jerry Lewis is one of my heroes. He became a friend of mine later. And Nutty Professor. Is there a better performance than his buddy Love in that movie? I mean, what a brilliant mind, just a comedic genius. Bruce Lee, I was 13 when my brother and I went to see that, and I said, superheroes really do exist. This guy's actually doing this. This is real. Did you see that? He changed my life. Marlon Brando, James Dean is the reason I wanted to become an actor. When I saw him in East of Eden, he had the nervous breakdown with his father for his birthday. Nothing moved me the way that did. Nothing. No song, no painting, nothing. When I saw him cry like that, and I'm 15, I was breaking down with him in the theater. I knew then the power of film performance to make you feel that. It changed me, and I said, "That's what I want to do. I want to be him. I want to do that." I knew that.
And it didn't take you that much longer after that to actually start doing it.
Well, I was actually blessed because my first job was in a movie theater. That's the only other job I've ever had. I sold tickets, popcorn, and Coca-Cola, and when I was done with that, I would sneak into the theater and watch movies, and I would try to figure out, how do I get from here to there? And I would just meditate on that.
And how did you do it?
Well, I was very lucky. I had this is really what happened was I was in high school, and I got a call to do an audition for a television show called The Best of Times. And the first person who ever really discovered me, pardon me, in terms of a professional life in
Who's his mom?
film performance, or
Not his dad.
in this case television performance, was George Schlatter, the genius behind Laugh-In. And he liked me, and
Old
he
school
said,
laughing.
Nick, I want you to in this pilot we're doing. And I left school and I auditioned, I got it, and that was my first professional job. And then Fred Roos was reading actors for a movie that my phenomenal uncle made called Rumblefish, and he just said, come on in and read these other actors. He didn't tell me I was auditioning. He just said, read the other actors, and I did, and then he was the one that said to Francis, I think you should put Nikki in a movie. And it was a bit of touch and go, and then he finally said, okay. And that was the first part I had in a movie. And then what happened, which was really a stroke of luck, because I thought I was very stiff back then. I had not relaxed into the idea that I could really do it until Martha Coolidge gave me the part in Valley Girl. And then it was, I'm proud of my family and I'm proud of my name. I'm still a Coppola, I didn't change it legally. But I needed to reinvent myself and had to give myself a new name so that I could feel like I could somehow, without anybody knowing that I was related, she gave me the part. And then I was like, wow, she's casting me for me. And that's what really opened me up to possibilities in film performance.
And especially at that age, it's got to be incredibly validating to say, I know this is for me.
Yeah.
And as a sidetrack, because I want to get back to what happened after that, but you did change your name. It's a famous story. I think a lot of people know it, that you were Coppola and you're Nicolas Cage, and that comes from Luke Cage.
And John Cage.
And John Cage. And now, the Marvel Comics superhero Luke Cage is pretty popular now.
Very popular.
So,
great character, yeah.
So are you like, wait, no, that was,
play him.
that was me first in a way.
The white
Well,
Luke Cage.
I mean, John Cage loves
No, well, John, the actor that plays Luke Cage is brilliant in the part.
Yeah.
He's fantastic. Great actor. And, but I want to get back to one other thing as far as it pertains to the name change, because it also added to the choice. I had auditioned for Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Good movie.
Good movie. I'm not kidding, about 10 times.
Which
And
part?
Amy, I was going to do Brad, the Judge Reinhold part, and then Amy found out I was like 16 and I was considered a child actor, and they couldn't work me because of the hours, so I didn't get the part. And then I got Brad's bud #2 with very little dialogue. And we all know who else was in that movie, but I'm not going to mention any names.
Sean Penn.
But they would all get in a little circle outside my trailer, because I was still Nicolas Coppola, and they would start saying, I love the smell of Nicolas in the morning, and doing all these and it wouldn't stop. And I was like, guys, I'm trying to get in character. It was a terrible little part, but still I took it seriously. That also added to it, because it was like, okay, this is like a big pitchfork in my behind, and I'm going to have to do something about this so I can concentrate, and that was part of the name change. But getting back to your Marvel Comics.
My less important question.
No, but Marvel Comics, what's interesting for me about Marvel is,
Get it right.
it's no secret that I was obsessed when I was 12, and my brother can attest to it. I would stare at the same cover of The Incredible Hulk for hours alone in my bedroom, just looking at it. And I would say to myself, I know it. I just know when technology gets to the point where they can bring all these beautiful stories and colors to life in cinema, it will be the mainstream of cinema. And I was right.
And you were right.
And it happened.
And you were part of it. You did.
Well, I did the Ghost Rider character.
Right.
Yeah.
But have you seen Black Panther?
I am told it is a masterpiece, and I'm going to see it when I get home.
But you were entirely right. These things that 30, 40, 50 years ago weren't mainstream, that they were things that kids were reading in their bedrooms or hiding in their back pockets. It's the mainstream cinema now, and it's amazing.
And that's a credit to what's happening here. They made it happen with the design and the technology to make it believable. Now I feel they can do anything.
And along those lines, you were, it's been talked about that back in the 90s, 20 years ago, you were Tim Burton's choice to play Superman in a movie that didn't happen, and we're all disappointed it didn't happen. But I know you're a big Superman fan. And, you know, we're not going to really talk about that movie particularly or what that might have been, but as a character, you know, you've been drawn to a lot of different characters. What would have drawn you to the character of Superman?
Well, what I was going to touch on had the movie happened, and I was the one that said I want Tim Burton to direct it, because Tim is one of those filmmakers
He was your
that
choice.
he can invent worlds, and he does. He's a true artist in every sense of the word. What I thought was the most interesting aspect of the Superman character was his alienness. The fact that he was an alien from another planet and that he was trying to fit in to society. So I was actually going to give it a fragility in terms of trying to fit in, and that those wounds of insecurity that they're going to think I'm a freak, and how can I help them? And so I was going to try to come at it from that angle, play up more of his loneliness and alienness.
Which at that point, I mean, that was light years away from what Christopher Reeve had done.
Aliens.
Yeah, I was going to do my own thing, and Tim was up for it. And what happened, and you know, I've often said that I think perhaps it's best because it lives in the imagination now, and the imagination can sometimes be stronger than anything, right?
Yeah, it certainly can be. Now, you move on. You do a couple of movies. You worked with your uncle again in Peggy Sue Got Married, which was a great performance.
Thank you.
You brought a lot of Elvis to that.
Peggy Sue, if I may say, Wild at Heart was more the Elvis. Peggy Sue was more Pokey from the Gumby Show. Because remember that show, the little orange claymation horse, and he would talk like this. He'd go, "Next time, Gumby, use your own go-kart." So I said, yeah, that's what I want to do in my uncle's movie. I want to talk like Pokey. And he was a great sport about it, but I didn't want to make the movie. I tell you, I turned it down like 5 or 6 times. I just didn't think the part was interesting. And then he said, well, why don't you just come and do it? And thankfully, I did it, and I'm blessed to have worked with him. He said, I said, Uncle, if I'm going to do this, I really want to go far out with it. He said, well, how far out do you want to go? I said, well, I want to talk like Pokey from the Gumby Show. And he said, okay, well, why don't you just come to rehearsals and we'll get started and you can practice it there. And she, as in Kathleen Turner, was not amused. She thought she was going to get the boy from Birdie, and she got Pokey, so it didn't really work out.
Now, I would admit, I'd never heard that you didn't want to do that movie, but I heard you didn't want to do Moonstruck.
What happened, and I was wrong. I had a terrific agent at the time, who some of you may be aware of. And when he passed on, it was like the golden age of Hollywood. Him and Jerry Lewis kind of left, you know. And he said, his name was Ed L'Amato, and he handled me, Mel, and Richard Gere, the great Richard Gere, and Denzel. And, you know, I was wanting to do movies that, I wanted to be punk rock, man. I wanted to, like, really do something down and dirty and edgy. And I read this script called Vampire's Kiss, and I was like, Ed, I gotta make Vampire's Kiss. Thank you. And he said, no, I don't want you making Vampire's Kiss with the stupid plastic fangs. You can't make that movie. And I said, well, you know, he goes, I want you to do Moonstruck. I want you handsome. I want you in a tuxedo. I want you with Cher. I want it to be romantic. I said, well, I don't want to make Moonstruck. I don't want to make a Hallmark card. I want to be punk rock. And he said, all right, well, listen, what is it going to take for you to make Moonstruck? I said, well, would you let me make Vampire's Kiss? Yes, you can make Vampire's Kiss. Well, if you let me make Vampire's Kiss, then I'll make your Moonstruck. He said, okay. And
that was a good deal. We got both movies. Now, you did have to eat a bug, though, in Vampire's Kiss, though.
Gosh, that was...
tasty.
Well, I guess I could say it's probably one of the top penultimate, not the ultimate, but the penultimate worst day of my life, because And it was my idea to eat the bug, to eat the cockroach, which is ridiculous. Robert Bierman and I were arguing about something. Because I didn't want the bat to be a fake bat in the movie. I wanted it to be a real bat, and I was asking him to please go to Central Park and find a real bat and put it in the movie. Because if you put a fake bat in this movie, it's going to compromise my performance, so forget it.
So you had to be realistic about that with the bug.
Yeah, but the bug, he made me do it twice. And he used the first take because he was upset with me.
So he just punished you.
And I'll tell you what I did. I spat it out, and I rinsed my mouth out with 100 proof vodka, and I still got calls from the SPCA or the animal rights people. I said, well, do you have a can of Raid in your apartment?
Yeah, I didn't realize they covered bugs too.
Yeah, they did.
So speaking of 100 proof vodka,
Yeah.
No bugs are
leaving Las Vegas, you win the Academy Award for this movie.
Damn.
Well,
You ate it
amazing
twice.
performance.
Thank you.
How did you get into the character of Ben Sanderson? I mean,
So what happened was I read the script, and Ed again sent me the script, and he said, this is the answer to both of our prayers. He knew right away. I read it. I was heartbroken. It blew my mind. I said, Ed, I got to make this. This is so powerful. What I did was I studied all the great alcoholic performances. Lost Weekend, Ray Milland, Jack Lemmon, Days of Wine and Roses, Dudley Moore, Arthur, Chris Christopherson, A Star is Born, and the list goes on. And they're all great for different reasons, and I sort of cherry-picked what I liked about each of them, but it wasn't until I saw Albert Finney in Under the Volcano, and in the first 2 minutes I said, that guy is really drunk. I gotta get there. I gotta get that real, that authentic. So what happened was my cousin Roman said, well, why don't you hire Tony Dingman? He was a friend of the family, is still, at the time he was a drunk, a poet. And I said, that's a great idea. I'm gonna hire him as my drinking coach.
I need one of those.
And he was terrific. He would give me notes. He would say, John Barrymore would eat a ripe banana so no one could smell alcohol in his breath. Try it. I said, okay, well, here's some Jack Daniels. Can you smell it? Nope, no alcohol. I said, well, great, okay. How many drinks do I need for this scene? I think you should do 2. Okay, just 2. Okay, that's okay. This one, I want you to mix some Sambuca with some coffee. Okay, that's fine. And I would do that. And then there would be, then I would pace myself, and I would watch Tony. He'd be sometimes so hungover, he'd be in my trailer, curled up in a fetal position. I'd be playing my bongos, thinking I was Marlon Brando. It must have just torn him up. And I would watch him, and I would put his stuff, like things he would say. Like he would say something like, you do not kick the bar, you lean into the bar. You lean into the bar, because it's not Vino Veritas, it's en Vino Veritas, en Vino. I said, well, okay, this is great stuff. I'm putting this in the movie. I just copied him. But there were some scenes where I said, Tony, this one I want to be blackout drunk. And it was the scene in the casino where I throw the table over. I don't remember shooting that scene, and the glass, and I'm screaming, I am his father, I am his father. And I was going through whatever I was going through in my own life, but it all came out. And Tony and I literally crawled together through the hotel hallway and didn't make it to inside the hotel and passed out in the hallway. I didn't show up for dailies the next day until quite late, and everyone was very upset with me. And Tony said, it's okay, just shave, put on a nice suit, look good, look clean, get an Egg McMuffin, ham and egger, it's good, let's go to work, we're on. So that, he was a great help for me.
Well, it was a great scene. It was a great performance. It won you an Oscar. But which of your performances have you been most proud of?
Well, I just want to say one thing though before we move on.
Before we move on?
That movie only shot for 4 weeks. If it had been 3 months or 6 months, I never would have been able to do it that way. I always act dry. I don't drink, I don't take drugs, I don't do any of that. I can't. because I have to be able to access my instrument, and I have to be focused, and I have to hear the music, and that wouldn't work. And so you asked me one of my favorite performances, I would have to say Bad Lieutenant, directed by Werner Herzog.
Yeah.
We were talking about that earlier.
And that was
ever.
totally impressionistic and totally dry. But I do remember one day where, I'm trying to psych up and trying to recall whatever in my past. And we had this little white powder called inositol, which is sort of like a saccharin or a sugar substitute. And I'd put it in the vial and I'd sniff it and try to recall some sort of impressionistic sense of what that feeling would be like. And I'd be working at it all day long. And then Werner would come over to me and go, "Now, Nicolas, what is in that vial?" And I said, "Oh, man, really? I'm trying to focus here. I'm trying to concentrate. You're going to ask me what it is? Well, it's blow, man. Get off my set. Get out of my city."
So you got into it a little.
Oh, yeah. Well, see, he sounds like my great-grandmother. They were both from the same place in Germany, Cochem-Moselle, or something. I know he's Bavarian, but same accent. And what really got me into the character was when I was quite small, 4 or 5, we had those stupid car commercials on TV, like "Go see Cal, go see Cal, go see Cal." And my great-grandmother, in her thick German accent, could not understand what they were saying. She said, "Oh, pussycat, pussycat, pussycat." And I just looked at her like, oh man, I couldn't stand the way she spoke, so I mocked her and I went, "Pussycat," but she took a wet rag and threw it in my face, and it stunned me and shocked me. And so whenever Werner would talk to me or give me direction, I just heard her voice, and I got so angry. It was so easy to play the part.
Woo! Show that anger, Cage.
On that note, I think we should open up to some audience
I
questions.
think that would be awesome. Let's do that.
Does anyone have a question?